Can you hear me now, Diana?
Yes, there we are. Yay.
Wow.
And I'm recording. I figured out the Zoom.
Okay,
I
here we go. Yeah.
have my computer set to not access the camera unless I say so. And
Oh,
so each time I open a Zoom, it'll pop up and say it's on.
yes, I do.
And instead of hitting hide notification, I hit stop. And so it took me an hour to figure it out with help from the Zoom chat bot that it was my security. I had to go into my security system and tell it
Ah,
to open back up again. It's so much anxiety trying to figure that out.
no. Well, I'm glad you persisted, and so
Yeah,
here we
good morning. Okay,
go.
so I have the record going. I've checked it like 3 times.
Ah, you're sweet. Okay.
I have a couple of quick things. Have you heard of a beta chamber?
Mm-mm.
My sister's chiropractor offered it to her, and it was for PTSD because she was having lots of anxiety about from when my mom died in her house and all that drama. And she went there and had, I think, like 3 sessions. I think they're hour long, and you lay in a chamber and they put earphones on you and cover your eyes. And I think she did something like this. I don't know if they put a helmet on her or what, but she doesn't have PTSD anymore for that. So anyway, I thought that's probably surface level stuff, but
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Especially all of a sudden, like you mentioned that your husband was thinking about.
well, I looked into that and ironically, he hasn't mentioned it since, but I looked into their site. I finally found it and they do not reveal their technique or technology or process at all. And so about a week after I discovered that, I said, Chris, I said, I'm all for you helping yourself. I said, but my hesitation, I said, I looked into it and I said, the only thing that's bothering me is that they hide what they do. And
They should have all the details
I
out.
said, that makes me very nervous because you have no idea what they're putting in there. Maybe they'll remove some stuff, but you have no idea what's going on. And he didn't say anything. It was almost as like he didn't hear me. And he just kind of went about his business. I mean, he gave me a mild acknowledgement, but just went about his business. I was like, wow, okay. So,
Because
um,
again, Sarah set, I think that's Cerecet, uses, well, I don't know. Well, I don't know if it's, I don't think it's magnetic, but it deals with trauma.
yeah.
Amy Pfeffer, who has been the on Emma's podcast, who's a life coach, apparently has her own trauma, has said it has helped her. So, uh,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I'm not interested in doing any of that myself. I just thought, here's my sister using some bizarre technology, and then Chris found another one.
yeah, but
And
yeah, when it comes to, again, I think there's a big difference between PTSD from an adult brain from
well,
a,
that's what I told to Angie. I said it's very different than the deep, deep trauma from when you're a child. So
right.
I think it got rid of her that, it just happened 2 years ago. So I don't know if it even got rid of it, but it certainly suppressed it or did something
Well,
because
so she did it 2 years ago.
no, let me think about this. It was around the anniversary of my mom's death, so that would have been December 4th.
Okay.
So yeah, just a few months ago. Yeah.
Oh,
So I probably just erased that top thing and because she still has to have something to go to sleep and she still doesn't I don't know, like whatever.
you don't just magically erase this kind of stuff. It's through the hard
I
work
know.
you're
I
doing.
know.
And
Well,
you're
that's
doing,
I gotta tell you, my parts are like really excited, like all of them. When I
well,
started to set this up to go, I started shaking and I thought, well, what's going on here? And they're like, we're just ready to talk to John.
okay, let's do it.
And we got the camera and we got the record and we got, so I was like, okay. Um, I don't know if you had a chance to read the journals. There's what, 8 pages of journals.
Is this what you just recently sent?
Yeah, it's June 1st through June 6th.
I am so sorry. Do you
Anyway,
want to go through it with me?
well, I do and I don't because
Okay,
it's
then
like
save.
this big dump of stuff
Yeah,
led
then I will go back and read it.
yeah, it led me to yesterday.
Okay, let's
The
talk about
night before, I had just a lot of massive memories and I'm more upset and I was crying. You know, it's always as I lay down to go to sleep.
yeah, yeah.
And so I had laid down, I made it a point to leave the cigarettes in here because I thought I don't want to smoke in my room again. It's just gonna give me energy and keep me up. So I left them in here. So I was in there dealing with memories. An hour or so goes by. And Chris finished eating and brought the dog in the room and he saw that I wasn't in bed and he says, "You in here?" I said, "I was in the bathroom because it's a separate little space." I said, "Yeah, I'm in here." He says, "You okay?" And automatically one of my parts says, "Yeah, I'm fine," with the perfect voice, right? And so he walks off, and so I got up. Well, yeah, I got up at some point I went and got the cigarettes and I smoked a cigarette. Yeah, and when he came in is when I was smoking in the bathroom on the toilet. Um, and and so I was done, and I sat there and I thought, no, I'm not okay. I'd love to cuddle with you. And so my parents were like, no, no, no. And then the others were like, yes, yes, yes. And so I thought, okay. So I got up and I flipped the hall light on because he's in the living room. And I thought, well, the light will probably alert him because he had only been asleep like 5 minutes. And so I said, "Chris," really softly, and he didn't respond. And so I walked over to him and I said, Chris, as I was standing over him, he didn't respond. So I put my hand on his hip. He still didn't respond. He was just sleeping peacefully. And I was like, wow, that was quick. And I thought, well, I don't want to disturb him. So I went back in my room and had a little bit of a meltdown because I'm alone. Lonnie started having fits that she's alone. And again, Chris isn't there to help. And blah, blah, blah. Let me see. So that was that night. So yesterday morning, I wake up. Let me see. I guess I could probably screen share this.
Yeah.
Figure this out again. Oh my God, where's Zoom? There we go.
Yeah.
One participant. Oh, okay, we'll just do it. There we go. Okay, so here's the journal. I woke up sleep deprived. So I only got like 4 hours of sleep. I kept thinking that my life is falling apart. And then, another part talks about it's not falling apart, but it certainly is disrupted because I had watched your show, I think, a day or two before. It says all my routines are disrupted, and I feel like I just want to sit and do nothing all day. I'm smoking, I'm not working out, my plant care is slacking, my house is not as clean as often. So anyway, I thought that morning, because I didn't get what I needed the night before, that I hugged Chris a really long hug, longer than usual. And then I said, thank you. I said, I really need you. And I think that made him feel better.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
and it made me feel better too. Even though it was only like a minute, but yeah. But then that song kept going through my head, Rich Girl. So I went out to beat up Ted. And I thought, well, that's going to be my exercise for today. I just don't have it in me to ride the bike. Now, when I was beating him up, I realized the woman that ran the crystal shop, her name was Star. She named herself Star. She went down to Mexico and did some new age training and initiation or whatever. And they called her Estrella Fuentes, Flaming Star. I realized that Star was using crystal as well, because I remember when that rich lady came into the store again after her son had raped me, I went to the back of the shop and hid. And she
Mhm.
came to get me because apparently she wanted me, the rich lady. Star came to get Krista, and she came to get me and I resisted. I was on the edge of tears and shaking, and Star hugged me and said, "Don't worry, I want you all to myself." She knew something. I realized that when I was beating up Ted. I
Oh,
remembered that she used a hand signal on me as well. So I don't know what that was. She allowed me to stay back there. It wasn't until we were living together, because
oh,
later, not at the same place. I had to sort this out last night. This is the morning of yesterday. When she lived with me, because she had nowhere to live at the time, we had an argument over her fraudulent business. I confronted her. We had a huge argument. And then she tried to kiss me using her tongue, and I pushed
oh
her.
gosh.
I pushed her off me. I said it was so disgusting. She was using me too. Glad I got a clue, and I kicked her out and got out of there.
Yeah,
I no, I left there following this other guy. I think he came into the shop as like a new age kind of person too. And I glommed onto him because my parts were saying, "Get the hell out of here." So I kind of
yeah.
used that as an excuse, and I moved to Texas. And I remember talking to her over the phone, telling her I wouldn't be able to come back because it was supposed to be a vacation. My car broke down. No one had money to send me, not my family, not her, nobody. So I was stuck down there. She said that she knew that was going to happen. I was like, really? But I can't remember what happened after that. I kicked her out, and I sorted that out later. I remember being in my apartment alone and relieved, but what came next, I can't remember, but I do now. But I know if I left Milwaukee with Michael, I went to Louisiana. That led me to Texas with the country's best yogurt and Blockbuster Video. Let me fix that because I guess it doesn't matter. I've already moved it to my thing. So what happened after I kicked her out? Did I go back to work with her? I can't
Oh,
remember.
hmm.
So these are not, this is after I wrote this. I went back and I was like, well, who's talking here? This was many parts. And so yesterday, after Chris left and I beat up Ted, I gave myself permission. I thought, well, just sit down and maybe take a nap. But I knew my brain was too active. So I said, well, do the red light on your eyes and then do the red light on your knee. So that's like a whole hour.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And I had just some fluff TV on to distract me. So I just feel like sitting here doing nothing the rest of the day and smoke. I need to go to the store. I also told Melissa I'm going to work with her tomorrow because I'm frazzled. So that work's not getting done either. So I'm just like depressed and down on
Yeah.
myself and whatever. So I made a commitment to that and I'm not following through. I said, but she also made a commitment and has not been following through. She's just way too busy to be my friend, not the kind of friend that I need. And Chris is just way too distracted to be the husband that I need. So they said, thank you, Jon, for being there. Thank you
Oh,
so much.
oh, well, I am
So,
honored.
so I started having memories then. I remembered Gumby, he was
Oh,
in an
gosh.
interrogation. They hooked something to my thumbs and they were pulling it away. My wrists were down and they're pulling my thumb away from the joint, both of them at the same time. And now my memories are scattering around here. I said
They
also,
are very fortunate. They are very fortunate that Part didn't report them for abuse.
yeah, that was the military people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Says also that man in the Masonic Lodge. So now I'm zipping way back to my early childhood after he had Wizzy play with the energy, practice moving it from him to me. After that, he took both my hands because he was like holding them, and then he took it and he shoved both my thumbs
Oh,
back at the
gosh.
same time. And it was quite painful. And that was to instill what we had just done. It was like to give me a pain memory and lock it in place or something. So then I'm zipping back up to adulthood again. And this is
Oh,
Edward, baby Edward. Oh, that's right. I watched a Catholic thing about, I think, Satanism. Yeah. And so they talked about abortion. And so abortion's going through. I says, remembering
oh,
the first time I got pregnant, I was freaked out and panicked. I knew that Edward, the father, was not going to be able to provide for us,
hmm.
nor did I want to marry him. It was 10 weeks when I got the abortion. I remember lying there and they did the procedure and I literally felt the life leave my body and I was so, so sad. I mean, I
Oh,
felt
gosh.
it. I remember I cried right there. The nurse held my hand, said that was normal and that it would be okay. I felt so bad and guilty. My reasons were because I knew I would not be able to provide for the child with the kind of life I wanted to give it. And I was also in a place where I knew that my issues and insecurities and lack of money would cause me to be overly stressed out, and I would relay that onto the child, and I didn't want to do that to my child. I knew I was not going to be kind. So then the second time I got pregnant, I was dating Jeff. His name is Jeff Sullivan. He had a very good job. Star from the Crystal Store set me up with him. Now I'll just interject here. I'm at the Crystal Store Star. We have the rape and all that. I glom onto Michael, leave. I'm in Louisiana. Then we wind up in Texas. I leave him, get my own job. Things calm down. That's where I remembered the sexual abuse. Well, I either called her or I think she called me that time. I haven't recorded this in writing yet. She called me and said something about she's coming down my way. And I'm like, well, what happened to the store and what's going on there? And she gave me some bullshit thing. And I said, well, yeah, I was excited to have her, but she had nowhere to stay. So I said, well, you
Oh,
can come and stay with me. So that friend that helped me remember the sexual abuse is now kind of getting pushed out of the way because Star is entering my life. And ultimately, she got pushed out because Star was such a big presence and didn't care for her and blah, blah, blah. So as we're down there, and after a while, I quit my regular job at the yogurt shop. I was a district manager and I quit to be in business with Star, right? So we're stressed out because we're making small amounts of money and she's doing her thing and I'm trying to help and we're trying to make money. And that's and
Diane, I just want to make sure the timing. So was this after she made that advance on you?
no, that
Okay,
hasn't happened yet.
okay, yeah, yeah.
So we're down there, and as we're doing our thing, she ran into somebody who thought she had a son or something, and she introduced me to Jeff, who I got pregnant with, and then had the abortion. So that's where we're here. So Star
Okay,
from the
okay.
Crystal Store set me up with him. She thought he was a good match. We dated for a while. I got pregnant, and he and I both agreed that abortion would be the answer. He broke up with me later. I remembered asking him if there's anything I could say or do to change his mind because I really liked him. He was a kind man. And he said no. Shortly after that, he got married to a woman who was more of his
Oh,
social status. So, but he was a nice man. I was upset one time about something crying. I needed a handkerchief. He said to wipe it on his shirt. I was a starched white button-up shirt, business shirt. And I said, no, I don't want to ruin your shirt. He said, even if you're in trouble and I want to give you the shirt off my back. And when he
yeah,
said that, it just kind of melted me. I
of
said, okay.
course.
So
Yeah.
I wore my tears. I got it dirty and he didn't mind. And I remembered he used to also have a problem with profuse sweating all the time. He just was constantly sweaty. So I don't know what that was about.
Do you think he was using something or alcohol or?
No, no, no. He just, I don't know. I think he said it was some sort of glandular problem or something. I don't know. So, so because I'm watching this thing with the red light, this is all going through my head. So the
Yeah.
third time I got pregnant was Milwaukee with Nate. Now, I remember right after we had sex, having this swirling energy over my ovaries, my sexual organs, and it moved into my body when I got pregnant. I knew instantly that life was created in that moment. The other
Well,
two, I didn't know that, but I did with the last one.
well, you are very spiritually sensitive, Diana.
Yeah, yeah. There's
Yeah,
something my chiropractor told me. She used to use what she called cold laser treatment, and she would do different frequencies on different parts of your body, and it's supposed to heal them.
yeah.
And I told her I could feel that. And she goes, no way. And I said, yeah. I said, I'll close my eyes. You put it somewhere and I'll tell you where it is. And I got it right like 3 times. So she was blown away. So I don't know. I just can feel energy.
Yeah, that's good.
So the first abortion, I felt the life leave me. The second pregnancy, I didn't really feel it at all. I suppressed it because I didn't want to bond with it. The third pregnancy, I felt the creation of life.
Wow.
Nate wanted to keep the baby and work things out, but again, I knew I wasn't prepared for it and I would take it out on that baby, and I didn't want to do that. I always felt that those babies deserved better than me because I didn't have money or know how to even love a man or myself, or how could I ever possibly love a baby or do a good job? I didn't want to raise a fucked up person. You know, I think it's because my parts were going, look, you can still be triggered and have SRA happen, and you're going to bring a baby in here? I don't think so. So
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't know that it was selfish and it wasn't selfish.
Hmm.
So the rest of the day, I'm going to close that one out. The rest of the day, I guess, I see I have all sorts of stuff open.
You're doing a great job.
I'm gonna stop screen share for a second. What I did after our last session, oh, stop share, there we go, was I had this list of 22 parts. And so I thought, okay, each day I'll
Yeah, that's
tackle a
mhm.
chunk, right? So first I did my pets because I thought that'll be easy. And then I did the parts that had very small roles. Even though it was impactful, they were short and sweet. So I got those out of the way, got those out of the way. And previous to that, I had done all of Chris's family. And so I'm just downloading all this information. So I have 6 left to do out of 22. Now
Wow.
I've put their position on the PowerPoint with their name and the year and the whatever. And all I have left to do is to put their story, and then those are done. But I still have to go back with the other 22 and put who's their boss, who's their ally, and who's their enemy. So that it's still a chunk to do. And so I have all this huge downloading. And so yesterday after the red light, what did I do? I thought, well, I was having anxiety because I'm thinking, well, shit, Melissa's going to call me tomorrow. John's going to be tomorrow. I'm not going to have time to go shopping. I gotta
Oh,
go
bless your
shopping.
heart. Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Right. And
Yeah.
so my parents said, well, just eat something. So I ate a little something, and I had that and said, eat a little something, get some energy, go do a quick run to Walmart. It's a quick in and out, 30, 45 minutes. And I came back. And so then I just sat there like a bum, feeling sorry for myself. And I'm going through Walmart like in a daze. I felt like there was 20 parts
And
just
you notice how you said that. That is her. I just sat there like a bum. Wait, you're going through Hiroshima emotional work and you call it a bum. I don't know.
I
Diana,
know,
I don't
but
know anybody
my
that's
usual
right.
my
You're working about as hard as anybody I've ever encountered. So
oh
it's
well,
funny.
that's great. Yeah,
It's
I
like
just
this Olympic athlete saying, you know what, I'm feeling lazy today. It's like, well, okay, it depends upon how you do it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and so just I was smoking like not chain smoking, but like every 30 minutes. And I'm like, this isn't good. So I'm down on myself for that. And so and I thought, well, a simple task to do would be laundry, because all you gotta do is sort it, stick it in the machine, and sit down.
Right. Sarge is saying it's you, you can do it.
Right?
That's
Keep the
funny.
trains moving, keep
Yeah.
the trains moving. Yeah. So we got the shopping done and put it
Yeah.
away. Laundry is running. And now while I'm doing laundry, I have a very efficient way of doing it.
I
But
can only imagine.
yesterday, I'm bebopping back and forth because I forgot the towels. Oh, and I forgot that. And I'm just bouncing off the walls. So I finally get the laundry set and going, and I'm sitting there smoking. And I thought, well, watch fluff. Stop watching SRA right now. You don't need more triggering.
Right. Okay. Hmm.
And so I put on the Kardashians. That's my fluff show. Even though I
Mhm.
know they're witches and I know they do SRA and all that, it's still fluff to me.
Yeah, I'm not. I
You
mean,
know,
other than
and so I'm watching that, and finally I start, you know, calming down, and the parts are like settling down. And I'm thinking, well, you really need to take a nap, so hopefully you'll drop off. Well, ultimately I did, John, but it was only for like 3 minutes.
Mm,
But I woke up rested and kind of normal. And I realized, wow, the parts went to sleep and gave it back to me.
that's a
And
power
so,
nap.
yeah, it might have been 5 minutes, but I know it was very
Yeah.
short because I didn't miss much of the show. It was like I put on a repeat because I didn't want to have to think. And, and so then after that, it was like maybe 2:30, 3 o'clock. Then I got up and I did the dishes. And I was like, oh, well, that's cool. You know, what is that? Like a 5 minute job or 10 minutes or something. And then sat down again for another half hour or so. And then I was like, well, I got to deal with those onions outside because I had pulled them and they're laying out, drying out. And I needed to cut the tops off and stuff. And so I thought, well, what's that going to take? 20 minutes, you know? So I went out and did that. And, you know, it's like 97 degrees, but it was okay because I was in the shade. So I got that done. I felt better. I thought, wow, I just needed a power nap. And I felt normal again. And so I went through the evening. I was fine. I cooked dinner, which the previous 3 days, it's been a struggle to cook dinner.
I can only imagine. That's right.
I've just been like, and I don't want to keep saying, Chris, can we order? I don't ask him, but you know, I'll say, yeah, I'm not up to it. Can we order? And I feel like a failure because I'm not cooking. And he doesn't care about it one way or the other. He's like, yeah, whatever. What do you want? And so I was able to cook last night, had a nice dinner. I watched that William Schnobelen, that ex-Satanist I told you about who was in Milwaukee at the same time I was,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? But he was talking about it was a different show. I was trying to find that first show I had sent to you, but I couldn't. So I found another one, and John, this one is so powerful.
Sorry, did you send one of his shows to me?
I will send you this one because it's
Okay, yeah,
better than
yeah.
the last one.
Okay,
But
that's
he
good.
mentions in it again, for the first half hour or so, or hour, he'll go through his history and how he started, where he started. He started off wanting to be like a preacher, but he said he went to college and his professors brainwashed him to thinking that Jesus was nonsense. And he said, well, I want to get close to God. So he decided to become a druid to find the spiritual answers he had. And that led him into Satanism. But he mentions in there, he says, you know, they sent us down to like Louisiana, I think, for some high level druid training. And the big shot there picked out him and his wife for like this high level training stuff. I'm gonna smoke. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, no, that's fine.
Anyway, so he goes, and guess where they decided to send us that they thought it was important? Milwaukee, of all places. And I went, I mean, I knew he had said that before, but he didn't ever put it in that context. So the Druid land down there was so much needed activity in Milwaukee, they sent him there to spread not so much Druidism, but the satanic part of it. And that's where he shifted into Satanism and went into all this stuff.
And when you said there was a need, meaning,
There was so many people up there into Satanism, they needed a leader.
oh gosh,
During the time that I was there, he said in the early 70s. I was like, I'm getting validation right here. So he's talking about the witchcraft and all the stuff going on in there. And he says, well, now think about this. At the time, there was 160 male covens. So think about all the covens there were with male and female covens. So I'm thinking 400, right? In Milwaukee. And he's talking about doing all these things And I'm thinking, oh my God, did I run into that guy somewhere, somehow? Right? And then he goes on with this story and talks about he moves from, that into Freemasonry and then
Oh
Freemasonry.
gosh, really?
Oh my God, yeah, he went into Freemasonry, all three different branches, the Shriner thing, the Templars, and the York Rite. Because he was such a high level Satanist, he could jump in there and get initiated and go through them. And then he had some sort of experience that led him to become a Mormon. And so he's doing this Mormon business, and he's talking about how they're Satanists at the top too. And so his story leads you and all the way through his life to where he is saved. But and he goes through his story about being saved. He says, but now I want to jump back again. And do you know where his story ends up at? SRA, and how prevalent it is. And you could tell, and this is like, I think maybe the 90s he's doing his talk, maybe even the 80s, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's like 2 hours long, but I was like, oh my God, you didn't talk about that last time in the other show. And it's aired by the Prophecy Club back,
I'm familiar with them.
I'm thinking
Okay.
like the late 80s, maybe early
Yeah,
90s.
yeah.
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 And so that blew me away. And I was like, wow. And so that was over. And Chris came in from the garage. And so I went and sat with him for about 45 minutes. He was looking, he wants to buy a boat. So he's looking at boats.
Hmm.
So I'm watching all these different boat, people talking about it on YouTube, all the features. And I'm starting to get drowsy. And I'm thinking, right on. And I'm going to go to bed. So I go in to go to bed. And I'm laying there, and all of a sudden, every single part started talking and showing me split-second things. And I kept getting confused. And that's where I figured out the star business, that it wasn't just in Milwaukee, it was also in Dallas. And that she found a way to find me. And that's where I could started sorting out, and that how I'd lived with my mom in 4 different apartments. And that's where that abuse was, because it was, or that rape was, because I was in that bedroom. And that's where that happened, because I was in that other house, in that other bedroom. And I was getting confused because I couldn't sort it out. And I thought, well, I'm not sleeping anyway. Just get up, get your sketch pad, and start to line it out by year, by job, by
Good for you.
place, by things of note, whatever. And so after I did that, I was able to fall asleep. It took me like an hour and a half, and I had to get up and go find my old resumes so I could figure out what year was I at this job and what year was I at that job, because I remember these apartments at that year. So I had to keep cross-referencing to piece it together, and I wrote it all out. So this morning, guess what I did?
Okay, talk to me.
I created, I guess I'll call it the life log, and I'll have to share screen. I keep thinking, I keep thinking it's automatic, but it's not.
See, this is a good, wow. You're
Yeah.
gonna be, you're
So
gonna create a textbook how to do this.
yeah, it's quite a bit of work. It probably took me another 2 hours this morning. Oh, well, dang it. I'll make that bigger again. You see this, don't you?
Yeah, I see.
Okay. All right, well, I'll pull this down for now. So I put the year, the age, the location, the address, if I could recall it, what type of housing it was, people or things of note, because sometimes I can remember an incident and would have to say, well, where the hell was I living when that happened? The job I was at, the pets I had, the spiritual path I was on, and the parts that were born. So
Good, good, good.
yeah, so Taffy was my dog, and Fuzzy was the kitty we had when I was a little girl, or in Iowa. Well, little girl and Iowa, as you can see that. Um, and then I go into the army. I'm not sure if I want to go through this line by line. That would just take so long, but it allowed me to sort out everything, all the little pieces and parts that everybody's been talking to me about since this whole thing started. Well, since you told me I'd learned about parts.
You've got a chronology going.
Yeah, yeah. And even last night I didn't even have this section on there. It didn't even dawn on me until this morning. I was like, oh yeah, I was into Buddhism then. And was that Scientology? Was that this or was that that? And as I was doing this, I added little things. But so when I got done listing everything out, and look at that, all the way down to now, I thought, well, okay, I'm going to highlight my pets, So pink is the pets, and then the gray is when they died.
Oh gosh. Mhm.
Tom and Jerry, my kitties, I lost them for a while when Scientology sent me to California, so I left them in the other Scientologist care. Well, they didn't care for them. My cats ran off.
So Diana, let me this out of my own ignorance. So with
Sure.
Scientology, do you sort of like sign up for them and they send you someplace?
Yes and no. I didn't sign up for it. What I did was I went in to see if they could help me with the trauma of Purdy, the security officer that was shot in my store.
That's
Because
right.
I started to have real black, negative, dark thinking.
Yeah,
And I was upset because I wanted my bright, sunshiny sky in my mind.
that's right.
So I met a neighbor. I moved back to Dallas. My neighbor was a Scientologist. He took me in to have some auditing done. Well, I got my bright, shiny outlook back. So I was sold. And I thought, well, this stuff is so expensive. If I join staff, it'll be free. So I joined staff.
And what
Left.
does that mean, joining
That
staff?
means that you become a worker in their church. And
And
that's
do
your
they have
sole job.
do,
It's a
do they have
24/7 job.
do they have residents there as well? Is that what, because I've heard that
Some
people try to
places
get
do.
off the property and you can't get out of the property.
Well, in Dallas, they have the church, or they call it the org, which is short for the organization.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you might hear me say org. I'm just meaning the church.
Yeah,
I said I can't join staff without having a place to live because if I quit my job, I can't afford my apartment. You make so little money. You need to provide me with housing. So believe it or not, John, they provided housing, one apartment and it was a two-bedroom apartment and there were four staff members living there. So I moved in there with my cats. Now I'm working and working and working, and they decide they want to make me a manager of sorts of over a particular area.
I got you.
And so they said, well, you need to go to California to get trained for that. And it was supposed to be just maybe 4 or 6 weeks. So I left my cats. And I wound up being there for 7 months. And I used to fret and fret and fret about my cats. How are
Oh,
my
yeah.
cats? Where are my cats? I love my cats. I promised them when I got them as baby kittens that I would take care of them till the day they died. And I wasn't fulfilling my promise. And I was just heartbroken and worried. They ran off. That's where I put Lost Tom and Jerry. I was in
Oh,
California here, staff house. Now in California, they had bought an old hotel and turned that into staff housing. And they were in the process of renovating. It was a dump, John. It was a dump. I was in a room, my first room I was in, there were nine, no, there were 3 sets of bunk beds, 3 high. There was nine
oh,
of us in a room
yeah.
the size of my kitchen here. Our suitcase was shoved under the bed. You lived out of your suitcase that you had to keep closed.
With how
And
much money that church has,
I know,
the
I know.
organization has, right?
It's disgusting. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm doing that, worrying and fretting over my cats. I'm getting raped. That's when I decided, fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah.
It took a little while, but I was like, I'm out. So
Okay.
I routed off there. You go through this process so that you can leave, and you're not leaving because you're disgruntled, basically. They call it a security check.
I'm
Right.
sure
It's
they do.
So I went back to Dallas and I had to route off through Dallas. Now that took 4 months, Sean, 4 months. They would have me do this auditing, this security check. And when I wasn't doing that,
Wow.
when I wasn't doing that, I'm shredding paper, right? But because
Yeah.
I'm routing off, they wouldn't let me live in the housing.
Yeah.
So one of the other church members said, look, there's a Scientologist with an empty apartment. He's willing to let you live there for free. So I moved all my stuff in there. And while I was there, I went out every day, twice, 3 times a day, calling for my cats, calling and calling and calling.
Oh,
Finally, Tommy came to me. I
what?
snatched him up, put him in that apartment. I spent another 2 or 3 weeks doing the same thing, calling for Jerry. He finally came to me. And
Oh, you found him.
they put, and when he let me, because Jerry's a little more wild than Tom,
Unbelievable.
finally let me pick him up. And when I did, I mean, he was mean. Tom wasn't, but Jerry was mean. And you could scratch me all you want. I'm not letting go of you. And I put him in that apartment, and I never let him out of that apartment until I left there and
Oh,
moved back to California because I fell in love with a guy, a Scientologist.
oh boy.
Went there. He actually came and drove me with all my stuff back to California, and I lived with him. He was an Armenian man who was from Iran, and his name was Haros Hatamian. So
Wow.
there's
Okay.
Haros. And that's where I lived with him in his house. Um, and that's where that dog attack happened, where they were going to attack me, but I went like
Oh,
that,
yeah. Yeah.
and they didn't attack me. So, oh my God, I just remembered something.
Well,
I'm
write
gonna
it in.
interject real quick. It's not about the parts. It is and it isn't. Tuesday after our session, I was feeling good. I had gotten a lot of work done. I did a bunch of parts. And so my parents said, tomorrow, let's do a video. Let's do a video for the YouTube. I was like, okay. So I got up and, I had, my hair was nice. I put on a little makeup so I felt better about how I looked. And I did a half-hour video. And then after that, I sat down and I went through the TED video because I know Chris doesn't want any signage of showing. So I had to put blurs. I had to edit the video and blur all that stuff out in the garage. So that took a while. And then I watched the other video, the first one, the hour-long one, introducing myself, and I realized I want to take the audio out that says what my last name is and what state I live in. Because I thought, I want to respect Chris's privacy. I
Yeah,
don't care if people know who I am and where I'm at, but Chris does.
that's
So I had
fine.
to edit that and redo all that. And when I got done, I felt great. The parts were having a good time. But what I realized, John, because I had watched all three, the one that did the video 2 days ago was a part because my voice was different and
Well, you noticed it.
my demeanor, I was like, wow, my voice is so deep there.
Huh.
And and I thought, well, that's one of the dudes. That's one of the guys.
Okay. Okay.
And they were like, well, I'm talking, but we're all working together. It was all of the ones that had been on camera as a child because we made a deal, and you'll read it in my journals. We made a deal. They figured out what they want to do instead. Remember the one said he wants to throw paint all over the place, and I said no. Anyway, they clued in. They're like, well, we could do the videos. We could be on camera again, and we could do it for good. And they told me, and I was like, that's a great idea. And that's why I did it. So I thought it was a really interesting to hear the shift, the change in my voice, and my look was different. It's like
Oh, you even noticed the visage, as it were.
well, I did my hair, and I never put on
Oh,
makeup, John. I don't put on eye makeup per se, but I put on foundation and some blush because I noticed in the first video I did, my hair was like this, and I had dirt on my face and my arm from being out gardening right before. So I don't
yeah.
want to look like that again. So my parts took over and handled it, even though I was with them doing it. But
Huh.
they had an organization and a structure, and they just went through it all together. It was perfect. It was beautiful. So
Wow.
anyway, back to this. Um, after
I'm
that,
glad you're recording this, Diane,
yeah,
because um, as you're going to be doing, all the different things that you're going to be doing is toward helping others. That'll be a very important thing to highlight.
yeah,
Um, as far as videoing, going back and
because
watching,
they'll be able to see my different parts in my shifts too.
well,
So,
and recording and recommending that everybody record themselves.
oh, right, yeah, I didn't think of that. But they figured out their solution because they don't want to retire. I don't want them to retire. I want to have
There you
that.
go. That's right.
I want all 132, however many there are now.
That's
I
right.
want them all present because
100% correct.
yeah, they handle shit. They
Yeah, that's
do it
exactly right.
well. They
Now they
do it
find
well.
so it's like liberating a POW camp. We're really finding out that the perps left a long time ago. They thought you guys were too stupid to figure out. So all the POWs come out. They're still in that structure, like Bridge over the River Kwai. That how the POWs have that structure, but now they can all finally just walk out of the prison camp and collectively be an army.
And they're collaborating. Yeah.
And that's interesting. An army of one.
I
That's a
know,
great
right? I'm
phrase.
like, I keep thinking, Carrie Elahe, why are you letting those people retire? Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Anyway,
no,
I mean,
no.
maybe when we're 80 years old, half of them will retire. I don't know, but
Well, no, it just means now all of you get to finally have a choice and collectively work together toward
yeah.
whatever you want, the end goal. And so now you're empowered to work for you and work for that common purpose.
Yeah. And also along the way in these past week or so, I've been talking to all of them collectively. So I just want you all to know that you can look out my eyes at any time you want. You can touch and feel anything you want. I want you here with me. And I said, I give you permission to live in the present with
That's
me.
perfect.
And
Good.
some have not, some have, but that's fine. So
And
and
Diane, just so you know, isn't that really, whether we're talking extreme abuse or just kind of normal life, the phrase, right? I want to be able to live in the present. So
mhm,
that's
mhm.
really, how do you know when someone has gotten to a point where they're kind of in the, getting near the point where they're really entering into their healing? I'm able to be fully, I use that phrase, fully emotionally present in the moment.
Yeah, and plus, oh, I just remembered too that night, 2 nights ago, when I was all sad and Chris was asleep, and I went back to my room, and Lonnie, the sad, lonely girl who's never has anybody to help her, blah, blah, blah. She was so, so, so sad. And I said, well, look here, lay down next to me and I'll cuddle you and hold you and we'll go to sleep together. And we did that, and all the other parts were crying, but I want that. I said, well, then everybody pile in. We'll have a big puddle of parts.
It's a slumber party.
Yeah, and so they took turns, and I'm holding my pillow, but in my mind, it's the different parts taking turns, but Lonnie was there more than anybody else. And everybody was just thrilled that they got to be loved and hugged and kissed and
And isn't that a great definition of self-care?
yeah, and the thing was when I first did that with Lonnie, and I loved her and I felt her relax. My
Wow.
body relaxed.
Isn't
I
that interesting?
physically felt it. And it was like this duality and yet singleness.
There you go.
I remember it struck me. I was like, wow. I mean, I've had those experiences before with my inner child way back as, back when, but this was so different and so powerful, and so I just keep inviting them to be here, come with me, do stuff, work together, no fighting, whatever, and
Play
they have
nice.
been, and they have been, yeah. And I think that work that I did several weeks ago, but remember I told you with Blue, we blew up her cave And
Yeah, yeah.
the training center had a tornado and a tsunami take it down. And
Okay,
I
yeah.
still need to work with a lot of other parts to destroy their old world. I haven't gotten there yet, but I think in doing those few little ones that I did, let the other parts see, hey, they're free. I want to be
Okay,
free. You know?
very good. Wonderful, wonderful.
So
Wow.
yeah. So I guess we'll go back here. Yeah, Harris and the dog attack. Well, then I left him because he was, I guess a typical Middle Eastern man. He wanted me barefoot in the kitchen, and that's just not who I am. So I said, well, this ain't gonna work out. I got a job. So it went from doing Scientology because he was a Scientologist to I got a job at Best Buy, was a supervisor. Columbine happened. Then I got promoted to manager. I moved to where that job was. 9/11 happened. Then they fired me, but not because I was a bad person, but because I whistleblowed on my manager.
Okay, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I got a job at Target where you wind up becoming a work slave. Now, all the locations stay the same. The thing that blows me away about my life is look at all these different places
Yeah, yeah,
and types of places I lived in trailers and apartments and houses. Just constant, never settled, just
yeah. Yeah.
constant bebopping around. I
Mhm.
counted with my cats, Tom and Jerry. They lived in 11 different homes in
Oh,
three states. They were troopers. And I let them go outdoors after my rescue of them. So they were the best animals ever. Um, so I left Target to start my own business. Well, actually, Target did fire me. And the reason they fired me was because they found out why I left Best Buy. I happened to tell a coworker, I said, well, I left because I was a whistleblower. Well, they told their
oh.
boss and they found a fraudulent reason to fire me.
That's what, right? I blew the whistle in Department of Corrections. Same thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah.
So I
Oh,
got
they're ruthless.
targeted. Yeah, and so
Yeah.
they fired me. It was really a shock. Came as a huge
Wow.
surprise. So I thought, well, screw corporate America. I'm gonna start to work for myself. So I did. I was doing tutoring using Scientology technology. And that's when I met Chris.
Okay.
I got a different job with another Scientologist. That was short-lived. He was creepy. Chris hated him. And then I finally got a normal job with not Scientology. I was just done with it. And I got a job working at Rick's Automotive. That was like 9 years. I finally had another stable job for a long time. And that's where I started doing the cutting through the matrix stuff. Now, this is where Mary blew me. Mary was in my life, but Angie was not. And then later on down the line, Angie was in my life and Mary is not. So yeah, so I'm all in the same place now. My little Tommy died finally. He was 15, and then Jerry died about a
Oh,
year and a half later. Tommy died because my neighbor decided he didn't like the cats in the street and shot him up with BB guns.
what?
Yeah, in the matter of like 5 days, Tommy withered away to skin and bones, having seizures, and I didn't know what was wrong with them. And I found out several years later, he admitted that while him and Chris were drinking one night, and I just hit the roof. I said, "You're the one that killed my cat," and he.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I know. So Jerry was left over still. And he still came and went outdoors. He was my little badass. Tommy was a sweetheart and Jerry was a badass. And just he left Valentine's Day of that year and just never came home. I was worried and worried, and I thought, Chris said, Diana, he's 17 years old. I'm sure a hawk or an eagle
Oh,
probably.
that's comforting. Way to go, Chris.
I
You
know.
military guy.
But I thought, well, he died the way he wanted to die, a wild cat, because he was wild. And Tommy died here. I remember I came home from work
Oh
to
gosh.
find him in my closet under the clothes, and I pulled him out. He was skin
Oh,
and bones, John, in like
oh,
5 days. And he was a fat cat. He was my fatty. You know? And he
oh,
was he was seizing. And I was so upset and so
oh,
freaked out. And I'm crying. And Chris
yeah.
said, Diana, just let me take care of him. And what he was saying is, I'll put him down. And I said, okay. So Chris wrapped him in a towel, took him outside away from me, handled it, buried him, and that was that. So I know that,
Oh,
and I feel bad for Chris because Chris shouldn't have had to do that, but he did.
no, it's
Anyway, so then COVID, and I went to help Sally. That's where the caretakers were born. And then COVID, Alan died during then, and then I went and helped Angie with her business 3 times. That's also where I got Sally's cat patches, and then Dixie came in my life. It's funny, but I'm listing it out to you by animals.
yeah, no, right. It's whatever. Right?
It was what I love.
It's a
Their
point of reference. It's a
consistency.
point of
Yeah.
reference. Yep.
And between Jerry and Patches, there was a couple of years and we had a bunch of aquariums, but you can't
Oh,
cuddle up with a fish.
no, not too much.
And I was busy with Joe and Joe loved them. And so it was a way to teach him responsibility.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then COVID, Angie's business, I was still helping her. And then mom died. And then Patches died. And then after that was the baptism, and Dixie was still there. And then after that, the recall, Dixie was still there. And so I went from Scientology to Christian. Now, the blank spots where I had no spiritual anything, I did nothing. In
Yeah.
Germany, I visited a Christian church, but wasn't interested. But here's where I did New
Oh
Age,
gosh, hold on. Wait, it just go back to Germany.
right here. Okay, so the green slots are SRA.
84 to 86.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, Michael Aquino, Temple of Set, um, he said he went over uh, to the to that temple. I'm sorry, to the
No, it's
castle.
here. Wasn't that? Oh yeah, that is in Germany, huh?
Yeah,
Hmm. Was that the same time period?
I'm wondering.
So yeah. So these actually are cat from our teenage years. Mom moved from Iowa back to Milwaukee and she couldn't find the cat. She could not get the cat. He wanted to stay there. And she said, Diane, I just had to leave him. I couldn't wait days and days.
Do you know how you ended up in Germany? Did you choose it?
No, but I had that realization as well because
And where were you stationed in Germany?
it was a place called Pirmasens. I don't know the name of the base. Pirmasens, Pirmasens, West Germany. But yeah, that was the name of the
And
place,
you
Pirmasens,
wonder
West
where
Germany.
Himmler's castle. Do you want to go
Oh yeah,
look up?
I guess I could take a look real quick.
No, I mean this could be serious because if people are saying to you, right, oh, you're an Avers, you're or Avery,
Well,
whatever.
and Avers is a German name.
Okay, but I mean seriously, Dan, let's find out where Himmler's castle is.
I guess I should put in
Yeah,
location.
Wieselberg. Yeah, there you go. And then take a look at some of the pictures to see if you.
Oh my God. I was in the Rhineland Falls in the village of I don't know that name.
Wieselberg.
There's just millions of tiny little towns in Germany.
Yeah.
But I was in a place called the Rhineland Falls. Let me put this
Okay,
into.
and click also images then. Yeah, but after this, then I want you to see the
Okay.
inside of that thing.
Oh my God, you're freaking me out, John.
Well,
I know. Well, you had the whole, yeah, you helped lead me to, okay, that whole Canadian thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's always a pleasure to meet with me, I can imagine. Okay,
Okay, so I need to see the whole country because I know where I was. Karlsruhe, I was down here.
but still, it's not very long of a drive, especially with the Autobahn.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll let the parts sort around
Yeah.
there.
But
Yeah,
go
we
go
were
to
near Saarbrücken.
go to images though for just a moment.
Sure,
And
yeah.
yeah,
Eh, Gosh darn it.
it's okay.
Okay, yeah, images. Now, here's the thing, John. When I was there, one of the tours that I took was castles of Germany. I went on a tour to castles of Germany, and I
See
saw
there.
about 6 or 8 of them. So this one kind of gave me shudders.
Yeah, scroll down. There's the
Look at that.
what the heck?
The
Isn't that
development
interesting?
plan of the SS Castle and whatever that
Yeah,
says.
see that apparently was going to be their headquarters,
Huh.
but that doesn't show the
Neuschwanstein, I know that name. There's a military base near there. Okay, so he's up here and I am over here. Yeah, that might be like an hour or two drive, I'm thinking.
that's
Maybe 3. No, Frankfurt, that's where you fly in to the countries, Frankfurt. And I recall that was like an hour drive from there to there. So yeah, that'd be like a 2 hour
you were
drive.
near Luxembourg, huh?
No, let me put in Pirmasens, Pirmasens, Germany. It's funny, I can remember the name of the city, but not
Yeah, there it is.
where's the arrow? Do you see the arrow?
There's no arrow, but it's sort of highlighted in lighter
Oh,
green.
Kaiserslautern, K-Town. Oh, right, I see it right there. So keep our eyes on there. And where was that other? I guess I'll have to open up 2 maps.
Okay. If you want to type in though, sorry, yeah, and how about just inside dark sun mosaic?
Okay, wait a minute. So I guess I need to pull this one out a little more to compare. Oh, so he's way up there and I am, oh my goodness, look how close that is. Wait, okay, so that's top, let's say the top quarter on the left, and this is halfway on the left. So yeah, that's only like a couple hours away, John. Holy cow. And now what do you want me to put in? Is it a map?
Do symbols
Search
in Weaselberg Castle.
symbols? How do you spell that?
Um, yeah, how do you Weil?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Ooh.
There we go. There we go.
Well, there's the,
Dark sun.
that's what you call that?
Yeah, I think that's what they call it. Then there was also down below. There you go, over on the right.
This
Click
one?
on that. They specifically made that, and there was fire. There was a natural gas pipe they had right in the middle. So
Yeah, that's creeping me out.
yeah, they were able to do
Well,
ritual.
I'm beginning to wonder if my dad's family, my family, really my dad's family, wasn't some middle level something or other because his descent is German, Russian, something else. Because mom's is European, Indian, and French, and dad's was German, Russian, and I think Scots
Look
Irish.
at that. And Wieselberg decrypted,
Where?
exposing the Nazi
Oh,
occult.
here.
Wow. So I don't know. It's just
I'll tell
given.
you, I'm having some minor body
Okay, well,
reactions, not anything strong, but
because there was, I have one client that I think was taken there.
wow. Yeah, there's that thing. Oh, yikes. Okay, well, I'm gonna leave those open and fart
So
around
yeah, I mean, it's certainly
later.
worth. But Himmler was just so fixated. There's no other
Well,
way to put it.
they
I
were
mean,
all fixated on the occult,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, that's
And it
yeah.
is still interesting to me. There's a video out there talking about how the Nazis raided all the Masonic or the head Masonic headquarters in France to take the stuff.
Oh yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
right. It's very interesting to
They
me that,
stole stuff from everywhere, though.
right, the Nazis obviously demonstrated they could burn books, they could burn anything. They never burned it because all the stuff was recovered.
Yeah, they stole all the artwork and all that too.
But
I
isn't that interesting that the Nazis didn't burn them? Now, they wanted the names of all the Masonic people to go round up, but at the same time, they wanted the information.
right,
And
right.
they,
Yeah, the
they just
royalty
didn't
do that
take,
as well. Yeah.
right? Just didn't take information of lodge members. They took information about the rituals and things. So they
Well,
didn't
I'm
burn it.
sure the technology for control. Yeah.
There we go.
But
But
yeah, and I remember last time we talked about that School Sisters of Notre Dame and that woman's heritage in Poland, and that we think she might have,
with
or
a German
him.
Shepherd, with a German Shepherd.
Yeah,
I bet
yeah.
she had to
It's
be
a he. We need to say it. It's a he.
okay. Okay,
Yeah.
I love that. Right?
Yeah.
He had to be involved in running a concentration camp,
Of sorts, yeah. Oh, well,
walking around with a dog.
oh yeah. That never dawned on me.
And so
Yeah.
he was already adept at using dogs for crowd control and keeping people in line and letting them nip at their heels. And
Well, yeah, because his parents would have been there.
yeah,
And yeah, because I think he was born in the States, but as it said, they did their Polish religious prayers in Polish when he
I
was
bet he
at
was
home
part
in
of
the
the
States.
SS. I bet he was part of the SS. And then, what a rough assignment. He gets to have access to all these nuns. All he has to do is dress up as one.
Right? Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he was having his way with all the nuns and all the kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, see, that's got my stomach tight now. Thinking about this.
Well, that's right. That's interesting to know, right? If your stomach all of a sudden is tight.
Well, yeah, and all through the past 3 or 4 days, the back of my skull has been really messed up. But
Aquino in that video, he's talking to a camera, and he has Himmler's dagger, and the way he pulls it out, and he went over
when
there.
the Church of Satan was in the army,
There you go. But he was number 3 in the NSA.
yeah,
Aquino was, and Temple of Set, and then connected to the Presidio perpetration against those kids.
yeah. I wonder because I keep thinking about my whole childhood. Whenever anyone discussed my dad's military career, it was in Belgium. And I didn't know what Belgium was. I knew it was a country over in Europe. That was it. I never really looked into it. But now that we're doing this, I keep thinking Because it's not recorded on his military document. It's
Wow.
only recorded that he's in El Paso.
Okay,
It's,
then what's up with that?
is he making that up for all those years to sound like a big shot, or or is it true? But he had
Well,
to have learned those techniques from somewhere.
and based upon what you were saying, as you're being tortured by
And
US.
he was in El Paso because that man in my memory said, "This is what your dad did."
See, that's right. And so where did your dad learn that stuff? And
So,
why isn't the um, transfer, why aren't the different locations listed on your dad's record?
well, but a DD-214, like if you look at Chris's, it won't say he's or where he was. If you look at mine, it will only say that I was a cook. I don't even think it lists out the two places that I was a cook. It just says I was a cook. So it's a very generic document, and I don't know how you would go about getting. They're certainly not going to release anything top secret. That would be top secret.
Yeah,
I keep
yeah,
thinking, why even try? You know?
yeah.
But I might someday, eventually. I want to catch up with all of this first. It's like I need to see my life from start to finish in order.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So that's what this is helping me do. Anyway,
Okay,
um,
but you didn't choose Germany. They chose it for you.
they chose it for me, yes. And you don't get to choose where you want. I remember when after I got out of my training, after basic training, they list out like three places where you'd like to go. Well, everybody picks Hawaii and everybody picks the cool spots,
Yeah,
but they ultimately will assign you. They'll tell you where you're going. And I thought, oh, Germany's cool. I get to go to Europe. But you're right. I was because in the army had to have records of our name, my father's name, and maybe if there were predecessors, because I don't know anything about his parents or before, but I know that his father was fourth gener. I don't know what generation Mason was, but he was 33rd degree, and you don't get there without having, I think, your father and perhaps your grandfather as Masons. They could be lower, but they don't let you get to the 33rd until you're the third generation.
oh, is that right?
Yeah, and also with witchcraft, my grandmother was a fourth generation witchcraft because that would have made me the sixth generation, and she thought that was a special. I was the golden child because of that, the sixth generation. My name's Diana, which is a goddess. Plus the witchcraft came easy to me, but even now I know it was the devil or a demon doing it.
Yeah,
So, yeah. So they were put together. I'm pretty sure that they were suggested to get together to create more. And I know that my father, I was watching one of Emma's shows several days ago where this woman, by the end, I thought she might be a fraud, but she was giving away a lot of details about the Mormon church and the Mormon mafia and their little SRA thing they got going on. But she said, if you can get a child, well, they believe that if you can rape, especially a boy child, that gives you. Wait, let me back up. The more people you can recruit, the more points you get. And the more points you get, the higher you go up in rank.
oh,
And the more more children that you can abuse gives you energy from them, like their energy that Lucifer gets to have. And that raises you up in rank. And there's more to it than that. But she also said there's one thing in particular. You can become a god in the Satan world if you can get a Christian wife, which my mom was,
um,
and you can turn her, and you can get the children into SRA as well. The more there was some specific structure about that, and if you can do that, it gets you higher in rank and higher in rank. And so I'm thinking my dad is fifth generation Mason, even though I never saw any Masonic symbolism anywhere. He's fifth generation Mason, and he's in the army. He winds up in Belgium where all, there's what the world courts there and some other UN stuff.
Yeah.
And I also watched a thing on royalty and their lineages, and Belgium was right in there with Germany and something else. And so they're all tied together. And so it makes sense that he was probably there getting trained, maybe not Masonically, but I'm thinking maybe that's where he got the technology,
MK
maybe the
Ultra stuff.
MK Ultra stuff,
Absolutely.
because that's when he
Absolutely.
came back and he was able to keep mom and drugged when he was abusing us, and
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
tape recorder under the bed programming her. Both of us responded to hand signals. And this occurred to me as well, is that's probably what happened with my mom's second husband. She divorced dad and she was single for like 20 years, didn't date anybody really, dated one guy for a short time. But she went up to Canada to a wrestling match and ran into her second husband, who would become her second husband, who I discovered 17 years later after he died going through his things. He's a pedophile.
You
So it
shared them. Yeah.
dawned on me, I'll bet you he had hand signals, used them on mom, and
Oh,
that's why she went with him. Because like all this time I kept thinking, why would mom choose another pedophile? And it hit me like 2 days ago. She didn't choose him, he chose her
so when they're checking people out, they're doing these hand signals.
to see what verbal response you'll give or your body reaction or whatever.
They're just fishing in a crowd, and all of a sudden they'll see
I
somebody.
I think so because that's what was
Oh,
done to me in the crystal store. They had no idea who I was. She clued in on my name, and then she did her thing with her hand.
oh.
I verbally responded properly, so she knew I was in the gang, so to speak.
So, in retrospect, now, Diana, um, what hand signals do you think they use? Yeah, you mentioned.
I know the one that the woman in the crystal shop used, who is the wife of a mob boss.
Yeah.
Okay. I need to say that instead of just saying that lady. She was very wealthy. And my first sergeant, let me get he would go like this, like, oh, my
Wow. Oh,
hands
see
hurt.
how easy that is to
Yeah,
do
and it's
right in the
very
crowd?
natural because they'll say, oh, don't mind me. I've got a bout of arthritis. And
Oh gosh.
my response both times was, I'm sorry to hear that. I wish there was something I could do for you.
Oh, oh, you've broken one of the codes right there.
I remember it vividly with both of them,
So that'll be something to help survivors now. Have you ever
right?
had these words come out of your mouth
Like
in
that.
response to this hand signal? Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, well, that's how I knew that they were both Satanists because they knew this signal and the right words to say with, don't mind me, I've got a bout of arthritis. And I wonder if you say that backwards, it means Lucifer's calling,
Oh gosh.
you
Okay,
know?
that would be interesting, right?
Right?
Um,
Because yeah, I happened to go through a few satanic things yesterday, and one guy was playing that Led Zeppelin record backwards, and that's what made me think of it right now.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
what does that mean when you say it backwards?
yeah.
So,
You just made me think of, like, I remember seeing different movies. I mean, nothing is specific comes to mind, but
can you imagine doing that in a movie? Or
or
maybe it's
doing
a,
the
or
like,
or maybe it's, Carol Burnett used to always do this. Remember that?
oh,
Remember that?
yeah,
Did
of
she
course I
tug on her
do.
ear and it was like saying, I love you, Mom?
Yeah,
But what if it was something else?
okay. But I often remember scenes where you've got the mafia and they'll show the hand, and he's kind of doing this, like, I'm going to make you an
Oh,
offer you
oh
can't
my God,
refuse.
John, you're right. See, I don't watch mafia movies, but my
I,
mom loved them.
but they'll just suddenly show the hand and the wrist, and he's, I'll make you an offer you can't refuse.
You're right. And they go like this with the glove
There,
or
I'm
whatever.
telling you, right? They'll all of a sudden show that. I
Oh
remember,
my
I mean, what
God.
film, I don't know,
And
but I
anybody
remember that.
watching that movie might pick up the phone and call their handler and say, give me a
Wow.
job, and not even know it.
I wonder if it's in the movie The Godfather or something. But I just remember every now and then they cut to, you see the
Just
suit
the
jacket,
hand.
right? With the you know, whatever, little cuffs,
Yeah.
and seeing them do
Yeah.
this.
You're right. Never
To the
crossed my
average person,
mind.
I always thought it was, well, they're going to beat the hell out of
Yeah,
them.
they're trying to show you the fit.
But but if it's a universal sign,
Yeah, that's
if it's an
important for
actual
people to
well-known
know.
trigger, then
Yeah, for sure. My goodness. Wow.
because we know the little handshake symbols, so now you might be collecting a lexicon, as it were, of
Wow.
well time tested, well-known time tested triggers.
Yeah, my goodness. That's a trip.
Cufflinks. Yeah, that's okay.
So I don't know if you want to go back into this thing or
Whatever
um
you want, but boy, yeah, so that'll
yeah,
be that
yeah,
entire
no, it's
time.
just I just after I got done filling out all the boxes, which took a while,
Yeah.
because there was a lot of blanks, and as I was filling it out, I was like, oh yeah, that was there and this was that and whatever. Like for this one apartment, I could remember I told you that bitch, I realized there's two parts. My dad, when we got our dog Taffy, I remembered what you said. Pedophiles never do anything nice.
There you go.
Dad allowed us to get the dog so we could fall in love with it, so he could
Mhm.
use it against us. But it backfired a little bit because there was one time he came after me. I think I was disobedient or something. And this is normal daytime life. And I went into the corner of the kitchen and crouched down and I was crying. And Taffy, she's a black lab. She was as big as me, stood in front of me and bared her teeth and growled and would not let him approach. And he went to reach around and she bit him and he was furious. Well, later that night, he took me downstairs to abuse me. And he said, you love that dog so much? Fine, you can be a dog. He took Taffy's collar and chain, put it around me, stripped, I was naked, and he made me behave like a dog that entire night. He didn't give me water. I don't think I needed to be fed, but he didn't give me water all night. I was thirsty. I think he had abused me did some of his experiments. And he knew I was thirsty. Is you thirsty? I'm like, yeah. So he went and got Taffy's bowl, filled it up with water, and said,
Yeah.
drink out of this. You're a dog. And so I went down and I like sucked it up like a human would suck through a straw. And he shoved my face and he says, no, drink like a dog. So I had to go, and he would make me sit in the corner, be still. He would leave the room. That's when he left the room to get the dog bowl and come back. And I had to pretend to be happy and excited, just like a dog. I wasn't at first. And he got pissed off and jerked the chain. And he said, sit back down. When I walk in this room, you be like Taffy. You're excited to see me. And so I had to pretend to be happy and excited and lick his pants and jump up on him and all that shit before he'd give me the water. So dog was born around, I don't know, is that 4 or 5 years old? And then bitch was the one from the rape through the mafia family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had another realization about that. You remember the song? What
No.
happened was they put on a Hall & Oates album, when you had the big albums. And they played it because that was the girl's favorite at the time, I guess. And so they played I don't remember what the first song was. The second one was, Rich Girl. Well, what they did was they had the lyrics printed out like a typewritten copy, or I think it was like a computer copy, even in the 70s. So they must have had early computer technology, printed it out. And what she did was she crossed off certain words and replaced it with what I was supposed to say. And so as the song would be playing, she sang the normal lyrics. And at the same time, as I'm being abused and raped, orally, anally, I had to sing my version. They put it in front of me. So you sing your version. Then they went through it 3 times. And then they took it away and said, now you have to do it without the words. And we're not going to stop until you get it right. And it must have taken 8 times. And so what I did was I printed out the lyrics and I crossed it out just like they did, and I put the words in. And there's like maybe only 4 or 5 changes, but it's basically that I'm the bitch girl. As I said bitch, she would say rich. And then the other part was there's a line here that says, don't you know that it's wrong to take what is given you? I was supposed to say, don't you know, to take what is given you, right? And then the bitch girl, rich girl, bitch girl. And then another line, it says, it's so easy to hurt others when you can feel the pain. What I had to say was, it's so easy to hurt me when I can feel the pain. And that's why that song, I have not gotten that out of my head till this morning. And when I was beating up Ted yesterday, and I put the song on again, and it happened to roll to the next one. And right now I'm forgetting what that song was. That one played as well. And it has similar connotations, but yeah, see, it's still not a clear memory in my head. I need to find that song again. Actually, it's probably on my YouTube history here. But yeah, they wouldn't let me go. And once I finally got it right, as I'm being raped and electrocuted, my IQ part and teacher's pet part, kicked in at the same time that Sailor and Kevin and Kitten are being raped. The other 2 parts are having to work with them so I can get this right to get the fuck out of here. Because they would have kept going. And even when I did get it right, I remember the boys said, okay, we're done. And I think they were getting burned out anyway. And the girl's like, no, let's keep going. She just wanted this to continue forever. And it was the boy that stopped it. So it was the son and the daughter of the wife of the Ballesteri mobster. I don't know
Doesn't that also speak to there's very unique characteristics, the difference between male and female psychopaths.
well, and you'll hear people talk on Emma's show about how the women are more vicious than the men.
I didn't know that. Well, I shared with you about there were female officers within the concentration camps, and they were worse than the male
Oh,
officers.
no, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, there's a specific YouTube channel that just chronicles history, and a lot of them were hung then.
Oh, wow. Well, of course, because they're the women. Save the men, get rid of the women.
Yeah, but it was just it was striking to hear the person that was narrating to say that it was pretty well known that these different female guards in either male or female. So they had female guards in the male prison camps.
Yeah, my parts are done with this thing unless there's something you wanna.
No, that's fine.
Oh, but I did remember when Star moved to Dallas because I happened to be down there and she was.
Let me jump back. I'm sorry, Diana. The one thing that really does kind of speak to this is you had to be sent to Germany where those perps, where that was very sophisticated stuff, and here they're interrogating you. What kind of,
Well, now Germany wasn't about the interrogation. Germany was about sex slave stuff.
okay, where were you during that interrogation stuff?
That's when they moved me to El Paso, where my father also was.
The Fort Bliss.
Yes, and that's where
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay,
the
okay.
different parts were interrogated, strong arm, they strong armed me. I remember they screwed with my thumbs again. And then that's when Gumby, I kept thinking, why Gumby? It's a toy that you stretch, right? And when that crossed my mind, I thought, certainly not. They didn't put me on a rack. Well, 2 days later, I remembered it. They put me on a rack and stretched me to get information. And then, so that's the second layer of interrogation. The third layer of interrogation was to put me on. Remember, I told you that there was like a dentist chair, but it wasn't a dentist chair,
Uh,
but it was all metal. It was like a
uh,
stainless steel chair. It wasn't rounded. It was just like this square hunk of metal, but it was a chair. And they had the electricity hooked up to the chair. So when they electrocuted the chair, my naked body got electrocuted. And I remember my head going back like that, just convulsing back. And I just felt it just now as I did it. The pain in the back of my neck was coming from. I mean, among other parts have pain there too, but that's where that came from. And I still didn't talk. So then they started using the cattle prod on my nipples and my vagina. Yeah. And that made me remember go back to when Dad used to electrocute me, how I would wet my pants. And then that brought me back to El Paso. When I was sitting in that chair, I urinated. My body just urinated. And when it did, it made the electrocution in my vagina worse, right? And I'll tell you something incredibly personal, but I never had a vaginal orgasm. Well, before that, when I wasn't dating anybody and I got a vibrator,
mhm.
it took I never got a clitoral orgasm from a vibrator after a long time I did. It was the first time I had an orgasm. I was like, wow, okay. And then I never had a vaginal orgasm until I was 39 years old when I met Chris. So my body was so
Sorry.
fucked up from
That's right.
those electrocutions that it would not respond normally. And I'll say when Chris and I were together and I used a vibrator, I would orgasm. And the orgasm, I now realize because it was very intense and it was every cell of my body, it was re-stimulating electrocution. It wasn't
Oh,
an orgasm, it was an
oh.
orgasmic electrocution. Because when now I use none of that, and Chris and I are in the shot, and he fondles me, I have a gentle orgasm, like a
Okay, so now
normal.
you experientially know the difference.
Now I do, yes. But up until and I remember when I would orgasm, with the electrocution type, that I would have this incredible moan, and Chris is feeling like a stud and everything, and I'm thinking, oh, I must be the best sex kitten on the world. But no, it was the same moan of pain. Same moan as when I was tortured.
And that's
And I
almost,
always thought it was odd. Why do I always scream when I orgasm? I don't want to scream,
yeah,
but I was trained to do that.
and that's almost the same description that Kinsey wrote what the kids would do when he was.
Really? Yeah, because I know Kinsey, he thought that their screams were an orgasm. And their screams was because they're in pain and they're being
We don't
tortured.
we don't even know if he was using electricity, but
Exactly.
he was sponsored by the CIA.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It's mind blowing how all this comes together, isn't it? Oh, but just the last thing. Star. So where's Crystal Dreams? Right here, right?
Yeah.
That's where I meet Star. have the rape, whatever, and then she follows me down to Texas or just winds up in Texas and gloms onto me. I think she was probably ran out of town, or the woman she was living with said, "Get the hell out, I'm done." So she was homeless. She probably lost her store because it didn't make any money. Um, but she lived with me. Now I only had like a full bed. And she said, "Oh, well, we can sleep together." 'Cause she's a big woman. She was probably 250, 300 pounds and maybe 2 or 3 inches taller than me, and I'm 5'5". And so I'm thinking, oh yeah, we could sleep together. It's not a big deal. I'm not gay. Whatever. But in the middle of the night, she would reach over and start touching and wanting to get sexual. And I'd have to shove her off all the time. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Because I wasn't conscious of the parts. And that went on all the time. And I remember I'd go to bed and I'd sleep with my back to her on the very edge of the bed. I don't know why I just didn't go sleep on the couch. I think in the middle, right now, I'm realizing in the middle of the night, I would get up and go sleep on the couch. And I was pissed off because it's my apartment, my bed, my life, and I'm on the fucking couch. But she's too fat to fit. So anyway,
And over what span of time did you have to tolerate this?
a few months. Well, I don't even know if it was a few months. Well, let me see. I was 23, so May to see, that wasn't the whole time. So maybe 4 months, I'm thinking. But anyway, that's when she brought, people to our house. She would do healings on them with crystals and stuff. And that's when I realized she was a fraud, because she would tell these people, "Oh, see these two candles? See how that one burned down more? It sucked more bad juju out of you." And after the people left, I looked up and I saw the air vent hit that candle more.
Oh,
Right. So that's why it burned down faster. And I realized she was a fraud, and I confronted her and we had that huge argument. And
yeah.
that's when she came out to kiss me with her tongue and I pushed her off. So, and I kept thinking, is that a part? And I'm thinking, no, my parts were handling it,
Yeah.
but it didn't create a new part. And that's why I love the idea of them not retiring
Oh,
because
right.
they handle shit.
That's
You know what I
exactly
mean?
right.
Thank God it wasn't Kitten or Kevin kicked into gear, and I think she was trying to get me to go gay, and I
Yeah.
wasn't going there. So the straight parts are stronger than the gay parts, even though they weren't gay, they were forced to perform,
That's right.
on same sex. So thank God for that. And you know where that comes from? My dad, when we were kids and his neighbor was abusing his son, he used to always talk about, "It's just so disgusting. He's such a homo," and blah, 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 blah. But secretly, he was doing it himself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what my mind heard was, it's disgusting to be homosexual. And I remember my mom and her sister talking about lesbian. It's just so disgusting. So that's what stuck in my head. And those parts were, pushed down, or not pushed down, but they, all of us knew it's disgusting. You don't do that, you know? So yeah. So that's the whole star thing. It moved. She didn't do that business in Milwaukee, but I remember her saying to me, "I want you all to myself." And then
Okay.
when we wound up in Texas and she's living with me and we're sleeping in the same bed, now she's making her moves.
Yeah, she is.
Right. So that
Wow.
hit me last night too.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm sorting all this out. I'm trying to figure out where I was, like the SRA rape, or the rape from the Crystal Dreams, the mafia people. All I could remember was being at home in this particular bedroom, because there were so many bedrooms. I'm like, where was that? What location? And that's when I started sorting things out. I could remember what the dresser looked like. And I had remembered years later that I refinished that dresser. And so being able to see the dresser allowed me to see the room, allowed me to see the whole apartment, and then allowed me to go, oh, that's where I was, and that's when I was. And so that's why silly, stupid little things are in this column, because it was the trigger to the rest of the memory. And remember I told you she whipped me on my back? Well, I did get, that's why my back's been itching for like 2 weeks because
Oh,
I did get scarred. It wasn't terrible and it wasn't deep, but it was enough to like scrape your skin, right? Not very deep, but it scraped my skin. And for like 3 or 4 days, I had to try and handle it myself with lotion and ointment. And I remember having to keep my clothes off of it because I didn't want it to soak into my clothes and people ask what's going on. Lonnie's telling me this because
yeah.
Lonnie, the one who's sad and alone and has no friends, she's the one that makes up all the excuses. So finally, after 4 days, I'm looking in the mirror, I'm thinking, okay, it's probably good enough. Ask mom to rub this on your back. Well, my mom did. And she said, my God, Diana, you look like you've been whipped. What is this from? And Lonnie popped up and said, oh, no, it's nothing. I think I just ate something bad. It's just a rash. So that's what Lonnie does. She makes excuses to cover for things, right? Like when I was in El Paso and they were torturing me and having the sex stuff in the basement, I had a boyfriend through part of that, and I disappeared for 2 days. You'll see this
Oh,
on the journals. And he said, Diana, I've been coming and knocking on your door and looking for where the hell have you been? Well, Lonnie made up some story. Oh, well, they
oh,
needed to give me extra training and I can't talk about it. And it's, I don't think I was allowed to say top secret because I didn't have a top secret clearance. I just wasn't allowed to discuss it. And I never did. But he was the boyfriend, was sweet and kind. And, the very first, it was a year-long relationship. And I was so proud that I had this gentleman. And he birthed, the adventure desert girl in me. And we would go bike, dirt biking across the mountains because he had a dirt bike. And I realized how similar Chris is to him. They're both tall, they're both thin. They love to be outdoors. And we happen to live in the desert, right? And I thought, wow, I modeled Chris on this
oh,
boy, you know? And, I also modeled Chris on, my grandfather, my mom's, my mom's stepfather, who was a ranger as well, which
oh,
I didn't learn about that until he died and I went to his funeral and my cousin started talking about my male cousin, Jamie. He's in one of the he's in Lonnie's picture with my two sisters, me and my cousin Jim. He told me, I said, well, I never heard about any of this. Why did I? He said, Diana, what man is going to discuss war stories with his granddaughter? He said, I was his grandson, so he could share them with me. And it made sense. So Chris is and he was a kind grandfather. He drank a little bit, but not like his wife, my mom's mom. She was just a nasty lush. And that connects the fact why my dad was okay with my mom knowing her mother's family, but not her biological father's family. Because her biological father's family was Christian. I was talking to her cousin, my second cousin, who I call Auntie because she's 88, 89, still alive. I talked to her about a month ago, 2 weeks ago about the scar incident. She was appalled. She said, Diana, if we had known, we would have swooped in there like warriors and taken all of you out of there. I said, that's exactly why Dad didn't let her interact with you. My mom, her whole Syrian side of her family, the Christian side of her family, was wiped off my mother's life. We never knew them. And when I was 50, I wanted to know about my Syrian family. And so I started interviewing my mom and she gave me Sylvia's phone number. I interviewed her and it took 5 years to do this, but I compiled a book of my mother's childhood in honor of her, that she didn't get to know her family. And that's a whole nother story. And I know we're at 12 o'clock, so I don't want to go into that right now, but yeah, Dad chose mom because she was a good Christian girl. She had had some neglect abuse as a baby, but not as a young girl. She had some more abuse from her biological mother as a teenager. So I think dad was able to beguile her. And in beguiling her, he gets points in the satanic world, right? He marries her, he gets points for that. Then he has children that he's abusing, gets points for that. So he gets to keep climbing the satanic ladder. And I'll send you the link to those two videos about climbing the ladder. I'll tell you though, the one's 3 hours and 15 minutes long and another one's 2 hours. I'll have you watch the one with William Schnobelin, the 2 hour one first, and then this Emma's interview second.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The end of Emma's interview with this woman, now all through it, you'll notice she's constantly saying, do you understand that? Do you get that? Are you there, Emma? Right? This is constant. And I'm like, what the hell is that about? But by the end of it, the last half hour, she goes into how she was healed through hypnosis and she got trained by this woman and now she's a hypnosis. And so she spent the next hour talking about healing through hypnosis.
Oh no.
And I suddenly clicked on it. That's what she was doing through her interview. She was doing her hypnosis little trips all the way through.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
don't know if her information is accurate or true, but I think she was, and you'll listen to her talk about a lot of things very flippantly, very proudly, that she was the best sex slave there was,
Oh gosh.
and then she'll qualify it. Well, if there could be a sex. So it dawned on me, she's using her techniques through this interview on Emma
Yeah.
and on the audience.
See, that's the problem. I've sensed that Emma is
She's
just
taking
not,
anybody. And I understand why she wants it out there.
but that's where the danger comes in because she's a perfect setup then for people to start
Yeah.
getting
And so I
involved.
was like, oh man. Oh, and one more thing I have to say to you personally. In your interview with the guy with the beanie,
Oh
you
yeah,
guys, you happen to mention stretching and that you're enjoying stretching for your exercise routine or whatever, and that you'd found yoga.
yeah.
Yoga will open you, those poses are specifically to open you up for satanic entry.
Oh, is that right?
So stretch all you want, just
Yeah.
don't do yoga
Oh
poses.
no, that's right. I just go on the video, but good point. So I'm going to bring that up because I just
Yeah.
find people that are stretching in like going backwards or
The
doing it
most
like
bizarre way. Yeah. See,
yeah,
Melissa
I'm just
was
I'm just
into,
working my pelvis. So
yeah, see, Melissa was into yoga and she talked about that. Alan never mentioned it, but she did. And then I saw Emma had another program. She interviewed it. She became a yoga instructor. That's her career right now. And I'm thinking, well, you're practicing witchcraft,
see, then I need to be
right?
careful with the terminology. So I'll just continue to use the term stretching.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I always thought yoga would be great to stretch. My sister Angie does it, but I can't, she won't listen to me about it because she loves it. But I decided, I can stretch all on my own. I can figure out my own poses. I have a whole 15-minute stretch routine I do every day.
Wow.
So, I
Okay.
mean, you can get good stretches without becoming a pretzel. You
Yeah,
know?
right. Right.
So,
So
yeah, let me get off this stop
that's a very
share
good
thing.
point. So I need to be mindful.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, John, don't start doing
No,
yoga.
I'm glad that right.
I
No, I
had
just I just
to.
do it for stretching. I look for different poses, especially ones, because pelvis,
Well,
I'm
it's like
sitting all the time.
here's a perfect example. I was at Angie's house doing my routine, and so I'm what I can't even think. I do this stretch,
Okay.
right?
There you go.
Anyway, Angie goes, "Oh, well, do the yoga pose." Now, what is that? It's a snake,
Yeah, it is.
right? It was like, and that's when it really hit me. I was like, why, what
And
kind
what
of
does that do
stretch does that
anyways?
do? I
What
mean,
does that do?
it pulls the muscles in your shoulder blade, which is nice, but you can get the same effect
Right.
doing it like a normal human.
There you go. There you go.
And the child's pose, it's like it's like a child bowing to a god with their ass open. If you look up what the child's pose is.
And they call it a child pose.
Yes, yes. In my interview with Melissa, I mentioned that. And I said, what child would ever pose that way? Why would they do
Wow.
that?
So they have these different terms for these different things.
And Melissa found out later that at the highest levels of the yoga world, that I forget what religion it's connected with, but it's specifically designed to call down demons without saying a word. You're just stretching. I mean, the devil is very clever, very clever. But
A
I was like,
child pose. Hello. That's all we need. Well, I'm gonna mention that, or if that comes to mind, I'm gonna mention it. Say,
yeah, I mean,
I just learned about certain poses, so here's
it's
the deal with
ridiculous.
yoga.
I'm like, my God, how beguiled all of us are.
Yeah.
So yeah, the woman with the hypnosis interview, it's fascinating for the first couple of hours. Like I said, I kept going, she's just so flippant. She's just so, whatever, should I believe this?
Yeah, nobody's gonna be flippant like that and talking about this stuff.
Well, and she's braggadocious. She talks about her royal lineage and blah blah blah. But when she got to the end and spent an hour talking about hypnosis, I was like, I kept thinking if she was going to end and talk about something else. But no, she was selling this program for an hour. And it's one of the few interviews, how Emma will pop in or the person will say, well, Emma, blah, blah, blah. It's one of the few times Emma's almost quiet all the way through. And I kept going, wow, that's unusual for her. Or the woman who kept saying, are you there? Are you there? Are you there, Emma? Right? So it's like she was hypnotizing Emma and the audience at the same time. And I was just getting irritated by it. I'm like, she's there, she's listening. Why do you need to keep saying that? And then when we got to that end part, I went, that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. So
Yeah, good for you.
anyway, yeah. So I don't know if you want to go through anything else or I
No,
know
I
what
just
is
noticed
it?
though, I had an itch as you were itch. I didn't want you to think. I just
Oh,
noticed that
I didn't even
you were.
notice. Yeah,
That
I'm
was funny.
always
I
itching.
didn't want you to think if you go back and it's like, why did John? I don't. It's funny.
Yeah. So
First of all,
anyway, so
you're
thank
doing
you.
outstanding work.
I feel
Unbelievable.
like let me quickly read you the dream I had this morning. It's real
Oh
short,
yeah, yeah. No, let's.
real short. Okay. The dream I had this morning confused me until right now. And this was right before you were going to come on, like 15 minutes till 10. I said, me and Chris and Angie and Mary were in the military, but we were in a barracks that looked like an apartment building. No uniforms on, just street clothes. There was lots of other people, and everybody was prepping to leave to go to their next assignment. Everybody was packing up and getting ready, except for me, which I thought was odd because I always prepare ahead. I kept thinking that I should get down to business like everyone else, but I wasn't, and I was not concerned about it. I even wandered around the place for a while. I expressed some rage on a wall. So instead of hitting Ted, I went on a wall, right? Um,
Hmm.
a couple of other people saw me and they were laughing and pointing at, yeah. I said, but I didn't care. I just bebopped on my way. All the other people left except for me, Chris, Angie, and Mary. They were all packed up and ready to go, and I was still goofing around, looking around and walking around the apartment complex. Finally, it came down to the wire to leave, and I said, I'm not ready. So Angie and Mary walked out, didn't see them again, but Chris was standing at the door, looking out the door, waiting. He knew I was there, but he was like on guard, you know. So I dumped out my suitcase and began to sort the bad stuff out and keep the good stuff in. I mean, I dumped it and I'm out, in, right? I knew I could do it very quickly. That's why I wasn't worried about it. All I needed was 5 minutes. And I swear it took everyone else a long time to pack. And as I quickly sorted is when I woke up and it hit me right before we came on that's a dream about what we're doing. It's like
Okay.
I knew once the time came,
Yeah.
because I'm a wizard at organizing and sorting, that I could just and handle it. And then it coincided that I finished right as you and I were supposed to start talking, and 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 my parts were going, yeah, that's right. So
That's a great training.
I'm blown away at everything that's good, because yesterday I was a basket case, but today it feels like it's all resolved when I made that life log, is what I called
Yeah,
it.
there we go. There we go.
You know, with all
So
the
good.
different aspects. Okay, it's all sorted out now. Like, I know that there's still some more memories of various different tortures, but there's no new parts, hopefully. But it's sorted out now. It's there. They've shown me. All it is now is about filling in details and getting the map finished. I'll show you. I don't know if you, well, I'll show you the map next time.
No, show me, give me
And
a,
and
give me
filling
a,
in, just it's about filling in details now. So I'll go back to, because as I was doing the chart this morning, I had to keep flipping back and forth to this to see what year, what age. So this, I think, oh, these were added, the ones tortured. And the promiscuous girl in Germany. I think that's it. And then here I added the military piece, because the parts that were tortured in El Paso they were created as a child, but
yeah.
these parts were created as an adult. And then this map is where all Adventure Girl, Desert Girl, my animals, this is my playful, joyful side. Remember I told you it was so sad I only had 2 parts there? Well, there's a
Yeah.
lot.
Good
There's
for
a
you.
lot.
There
I
we
just
go.
didn't know it.
There we go.
And oh, Spirit is a new part. You'll read about her.
Yeah.
And then I put Chris's family. Chris is there. They're the bitches. I call them the bitches in my mind.
There we go. There we go.
And then the caretakers, which was my family, although this is Chris's mom. So the caretakers over here, the bitches over there. But I think that's everybody. It's 133 parts. And I think about that bag of matches that my dad gave me. And I'm thinking that could be about 133 matchbooks. You know, how he would know how many. I don't know. Maybe that's not, maybe there's 200 in there, but 20 of them had the same torture, you know? So I had 20 matchbooks for one part or something. But I think now it's about just filling in the details and finishing it off. And I'm kind of, my brain keeps asking the parts, well, why such a mad dash? And they're saying, because you can handle it and you got to get busy. I think the next job is doing the videos.
Mhm.
So I don't know
Now
if
you
I don't know
you
if I'm fooling myself or what, but that's how I feel
Diana, I
right
think
now.
this is really a roadmap to help survivors. Because as a matter of fact, I've heard now from multiple people that I showed 2 maps. One was
Mine?
yours, the other is the
Oh
other,
yeah, saw that one, yeah.
and it's been very profound for people.
Well, when I saw the first one that you know, the with the apartment complex, I thought, wow, that's cool. I just can't get around the squares. I just
Yeah, no,
can't get
that's
with
right.
the squares. Right.
Everybody's
But once and I realized, oh, we'll just use circles to separate things. And that's another part of this too, is I think I'm going to use that. I forget the name of the software, the whiteboard.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's where I'm going to use lines of communication.
Excellent.
Put the
And
parts in there and lines of
okay,
communication,
excellent. Yeah.
different colors for different clicks.
And then tell you what, it'll be interesting. Again, just something to think through, right? Like you don't have enough on your hands to,
Well,
but
but that's what last night's thing was about, doing the life log. So, okay, next
yeah,
step
no,
is going to be
it's
the
all
whiteboard.
but thinking in
So,
terms of a 3-dimensional model.
Well, and that's
height
part
and
of,
depth and where and
well,
it's
and that's
that,
part of, I think, what the whiteboard is going to help me sort out is who's
yeah.
sabotaging me, who's helping me. And I can refer back to the map because they go like, oh, these are the playful parts. These are the liars. These are the kill, you know what I mean? So it's like all the different worksheets, so to speak, I think are going to be able to fill in the 3 dimensions.
As a matter of fact, I just
Because all the wounded children are in the bottom,
matter of
obviously.
fact, bring up a regular Word document because this would be a very interesting. It just came to mind. So see if
Just a
this,
blank, a blank
yeah,
one.
just a blank one, or even in that. But yeah, okay, let's just do it because I think it's okay. Now, what I discovered was okay. Go up next to draw, do insert.
Oh, and oh, just draw and then
No,
what?
I'm sorry. Just insert. Okay, now under shapes, go up right there. And then
Okay.
if you scroll down, as I'm sorry, yep, sorry, the second to the top section there. Well, basic shapes. I'm sorry. So go down
Oh, okay. Basic shapes.
now over to
Okay.
the right, over to the right, go up now over to the left and under the number 8.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't it. Go back one more. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Insert
Insert and
shapes,
shapes. Okay, so
basic.
basic. So under the number 8, there's a cylinder.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Now you can actually, yeah, it's double clicked and you can actually fade that. So it's almost translucent. Somewhere in, yeah, aren't you smart? How'd you know?
Well, because that's the same thing you do in PowerPoint.
Okay, there, okay, because now I'm thinking it would be almost like that could be a grouping, but I wonder then depth, like who's below who, and then you
Oh,
can
right,
almost
right,
insert.
right. Okay.
So just a thought there.
So yeah, my parts will start playing with that.
Yeah, there you go. Because
Smarty
there's
pants
going to
will
be
start
depth
thinking
because
about it.
the ones that were made earlier and the kids, and then really you almost have well, you have the makings then of the chart that I've been working with. So here's the present day parts. Here's the gatekeepers or the COO, and that
But
would
see,
be
those are the
charge.
ones that are the most hidden are the gatekeepers. I mean, they're not hidden now because it's Trish and Sarge and
That's right.
Siggy,
That's right.
but
They would
they're
be
not
in.
giving me the details.
There you go. There you
You
go.
know?
So yeah, I'm thinking in the chart that I put together, they would be the COOs. They would be in that red box in the middle area. So there you go.
All right, cool. All right. So,
You guys are super creative. I mean, the stuff you're doing is phenomenal.
yeah, it was all about sorting last night. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
there was a few images that, I got the thumb image and the whatever, and my thumbs have been tingly for a couple of weeks. So, yeah, I was
That's
like,
something.
but
Isn't that something?
you're right about you have to be mindful and pay attention to what your body is doing. It's not just some random pain. Like when I was a kid, my grandmother put curses on me and Angie and Mary. Angie would be Mary would be torn limb from limb, which is what Gumby had happened, right? The torture. Angie's was snakes, and she always talks about she feels like she has snakes in her neck. Mine was I would be stabbed 1,000 stabs.
Yeah,
And
what a wonderful woman. What a wonderful woman.
and if we talked, and as a young adult, I remember I would have random pains in my back. I would always tell I said, I feel like I'm getting stabbed in the back.
Wow.
So that's one of the gatekeepers that does that.
Isn't that
I was
something?
probably remembering something, and it was after
Right,
I
right,
remembered the sexual abuse. I was probably remembering something or
right.
said something I shouldn't have. And I could literally have 3 or 4 at once, all
Yeah.
over my back.
Isn't that's the power of them.
And
Yeah, the
and Mary, here's what's interesting. Do you know she has deep vein thrombosis? Meaning she can't sit for too long or stand for too long, right? I don't know if you know what that is. But it occurred to me, what would happen if you're torn limb from limb? Your veins would get stretched out. right? And so she has a problem with her veins. It's like, are you kidding me? I'm just blown away at how the subconscious and the mind and the suggestions work.
Yeah, and even
Because
that
no
same
one ever put a knife in my back. I don't have scars on my
yeah,
body. So
but I had one client again, they zapped with a handheld taser. And so then a part now to keep them quiet uses electricity. They feel it.
oh, I do too. Oh my goodness. And the thing is, I realized as a child and in El Paso when I was being tortured, I would scratch my skin, scratch it till I scabbed. And I realize now it's because of the electrocution. I kept feeling the stimulation. And if I get a bug bite, I lose my mind.
Mhm.
It's about my skin
Right.
and my skin on my eyes. So I'm
So it'll be
praying to God that this will
that'll be
heal.
interesting, right? To
It
see if
will,
it
won't it?
starts to clear up.
And plus, my grandma put a curse on my eyes to not see what I see, right? And so, what do I
Oh,
have?
so Psalm one,
I have scales on my eyes,
there we
right?
go. So Psalm 119 verses 18, Lord, open the eyes of my heart that I may see the wonderful truths in your laws. So
Yeah. So
and
it's fascinating.
in one of the Proverbs, an undeserved curse does not come to rest. And it's not and immediately, right, a lot of survivors will say, well, I deserve it. No, the only entity in the world that can curse somebody literally and make it come true is God. So God pronounces curses.
Or subconscious parts re-stimulating that pain.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
But it's really nice to know then that it's referencing, Satan is a liar, so he'll try to curse. He can't do anything. He tries to make things happen.
Yeah.
God can make things happen. So therefore, it's very powerful to think an undeserved curse. So the only person that can curse is God, does not
Mhm.
come to rest. So like a fluttering swallow or a darting sparrow, an
Yeah.
undeserved curse. So the times I've interacted with different people where they say, "Aren't you scared of curses?" I said, not at all.
I see, I'm not either. And if I run into, if a spirit happens to be in my space anywhere, I just shoo them away.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's good. I'm glad we're talking about it because that sinks in.
I meant to tell you, I haven't heard from again. Not a whisper.
And there you go. You got a little too close to the truth for him.
So I'm wondering if I should contact him, just say, how's it going with that transcribing and focus on Alan Watts stuff.
Oh, there you go.
But I don't want to like pretend to be his counselor either. I have no clue what I'm doing, and I don't want to
Well,
trigger
I think
any
intuitively
suicide.
you have a sense. You have a sense.
Well, I don't want to trigger a suicide thing,
Oh, oh,
So you mentioned that once in one of your talks, and I thought, oh my God, I don't want to mess around with that, because I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
oh, no, you have an intuitive
I
sense.
know how it works with me,
Yeah.
but other people have different training. I don't think I had to have had a suicide button put in there somewhere, but I don't know where it
But
is.
you've been working hard to come to terms with truth. So,
Yeah. So
well, maybe he'll reach back out to you. Just maybe leave it in his court.
yeah, I think I will leave it in his
Yeah.
court.
Yeah.
We're kind of relying on him to do those show notes for the Cutting Through channel, but I'm like, if he doesn't, that's okay. It was a
Okay.
project I gave to myself anyway. So,
Okay. Yeah.
but yeah, it'd be great to have him do that, but
Yeah.
have a volunteer. And
Okay.
oh my God, John, when you were talking about if anybody wants to volunteer, help you put stuff on your site, I thought, I want to do it. And my part said, you got too much shit going on right now.
Okay, we'll
So
put that on hold.
maybe
Maybe.
down the road, once I
That's
figure
right.
out how to do it,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. So yeah.
Oh, that's good. Tell the parts, thank you.
Sure.
It's the thought that counts. So, well, let me pray. You're doing a wonderful
Okay,
job,
thank
Di.
you.
You bet. Lord, thank you. Thank you so much for for being our God and our Savior, number one. Lord, thank you for your care and concern about us and what happens to us. Thank you that you get enraged on our behalf. about the harm that perpetrators have done. Lord, thank you for your hand of protection upon Diana and all the parts over all the years as she's just gone through hell. Lord, and you preserved them when they were trying to harm Blue, and you were there and you preserved them, and you spoke out of their mouth to back all the witches away. Lord, we know that you have your hand for good, for work at this, Lord, that you're going to open doors. You're going to use this strategically to set other captives free, as far as other survivors that don't know where to start. They don't have a roadmap. And so honor her work. Lord, continue to give her the strength and the fortitude. Help each of the parts know that you are enraged on their behalf and that you are turning up the hottest fires of hell, those that did this kind of heinous stuff. And Lord, just continue to unmask perpetrators, even that are in the military now and in different walks of life, and bring justice. Lord, and help Diana and all the parts. If any of these perps are still around, Lord, bring them to justice. Help them to be found out. Thank you that you do not rest until evil is avenged. So thank you that you are the avenger of blood. The harm that these kind of perpetrators do, that you take note of and you go after them. So thank you for your intensity on our behalf. And may we carry that message. That is what David said, that he would sing about and that he would proclaim in the midst of the assembly, that you are a promise-keeping God and you promise to avenge. So thank you for caring that much about us, letting us know that not one ounce of our pain ever fell on deaf ears. So continue to protect Diana and continue to work on her husband. Lord, thank you that you do have your hand upon him, and just continue to do that deep work in his life as well. In Jesus' name,
Amen.
amen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
And God have his hand on you as well. Keep doing what you're doing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we'll continue the work.
All right, I'll see you Tuesday.
There you go. You're doing an excellent job.
Another
If
suitcase full
anything
of
comes
crap.
up, if any insights or something, you can send them over to me. Just let me.
Okay, all right. What do you
There
mean,
you
like
go.
a text or something, or email?
Yeah,
Or...
or just keep me apprised in between, and I'll
Okay.
go back and I'll read the rest of the stuff that you sent.
Yeah, a lot of it's, like it says pets and family, the easy stuff first. The next, I have 6 to go, which is mom, dad, Angie, Mary, Chris, and being an aunt. So I figured the mom and dad ones are going to be pretty lengthy. My sisters will be lengthy, but and Chris will be lengthy, but yeah. Anyway, so I'm working. Got to fill in the holes now.
Good job. Well, let
Thanks.
everybody know I appreciate them.
Absolutely. We appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, it's mutual.
Okay.
Okay. We'll
Have a
see you next
great
week.
day.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.